So everyone knows how messy breakups get when there's money involved. Now imagine that breakup is between two of the most powerful people in tech. There's $134 billion at stake, and someone's personal diary just became court evidence. This is Elon versus OpenAI, the saga that just keeps continuing to escalate. And I guess maybe we'll start with the quick version, where Elon co-founded OpenAI in 2015 with a $38 million donation, thinking they were building a nonprofit to save humanity from big tech AI monopolies like Google. Flash forward to today, OpenAI is now worth $500 billion, partnered with Microsoft, about to go public, and Elon is saying, hey, I got played. The receipts dropped. We have Greg Brockman, who's OpenAI's president. He had journal entries from 2017, where we're going to get into. It was really fascinating. And Greg posted a rebuttal. The drama is kind of starting to get out of control, and there's a lot of new updates this week that we're going to dive into. So grab your popcorn, and let's get into this.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start off with the drama between these two. By the way, I have to acknowledge I'm reporting from the Batcave today, Josh.
It's a little dark over
there. So you're going to have to deal
We're recording
with
late.
me being a bit of a silhouette. Yeah. Josh is on the West Coast for listeners here, and I'm on the East Coast right now. So it's past sunset. It's past my sunset over here. So let's jump straight into it. Elon has sued many companies and many founders in his time, but his favorite and most juiciest lawsuit has been to OpenAI, who have wronged him, Josh. He initially invested $38 million, or rather donated $38 million to what was then a nonprofit, OpenAI, committed to building AI for the open source good so that it wouldn't get into the hands of evil. Fast forward to today, and obviously OpenAI's structure has changed into something that could kind of loosely, definitely be categorized as a for-profit. And so the lawsuit's been going kind of back and forth for a while, but it kind of culminated over the last 2 months. To give you the quick headlines, at the end of last year, the judge refused Sam Altman's request to dismiss the case completely, saying that Elon had sufficient evidence and that it was going to go to trial, which is now going to happen in April of this year. But Elon stepped up the gas over the last week and said that he's coming for it all. He's coming for what his original $38 million donation would be in today's OpenAI's valuation. Do you want to guess what that number is, Josh?
Some astronomical amount. I mean, this has to be big.
It is $137 billion.
Yeah, that's insane.
He's going for the neck, basically. Oh, rather $134 billion. My bad. So here are the key details. Musk's expert lawyer, he goes by the name of Paul Wazan, values the damages between $79 to $134 billion based on his original $38 million donation. So the question that becomes, well, what's really changed? Why has Musk got like the upper hand now? And it's just something that you alluded to earlier, which is Greg Brockman, the acting president of OpenAI.
We got your diary,
kept
bro.
a diary of the entire sequence of events or history of OpenAI up until this day, which he had to legally give to the court for review.
Oh, that's so violent.
And Josh,
could you imagine your personal diary?
Like dude, also why? It is like a 16-year-old girl's diary. And by that, I mean he has documented everything, down to the line of whether he thinks it's morally ethical to do what he was doing back then. So to give you an idea, look at this quote, Josh. Look at this tweet right here. He goes, "It'd be wrong to steal the nonprofit from him." Him he's referring to as Elon. "To convert to a B Corp without him. That'd be pretty morally bankrupt. And he's not an idiot." And then he goes on to say, "I cannot say that we are committed to the nonprofit. Don't want to say that we're committed. If 3 months later we're doing the B Corp, then it was a lie. Not feeling so great about all of this. The true answer is that we want Musk out. Can't see this turning into a for-profit without a very nasty fight." So the long story short is Elon is suing very aggressively for what his original donation is in an equity stake in the OpenAI is today, to the tune of $134 billion. And he has pretty much a smoking gun, Josh. But there was a rebuttal from Greg Brockman himself saying that Elon Musk had let some important context or left some important context out of his claim. And I'm showing this on the screen right here where, he mentions out, we've got to figure out how we transition from a nonprofit to something which is essentially a philanthropic endeavor. So what you're seeing in blue on the screen here is what Elon has claimed in court. He's saying, hey, I've always kept my notion that I wanted OpenAI to become a philanthropic endeavor, but he left out what was in red, which is him saying, I know that we need to transform this into a B Corp or a C Corp. So there's a bit of inambiguity and games being played from Elon. Which side do you take on
Well, I'm
this?
trying to look at this and evaluate this as neutral as possible. And one party, we're seeing the journal entries, which one, I have a lot of questions how they got that journal or the diary and they knew that it
Mm.
even existed, because that seems like a very personal thing you wouldn't really want to tell people about. So how the lawyers, one, discovered it existed and then two, got access to it. That's I'm
Mhm.
sure there's some funny stuff going on behind the scenes of this case just to kind of provide more evidence. But in terms of the evidence that's been provided so far, you have one party who is like, hey, we don't actually want this person to be at the company. I think we just want to remove him. But I kind of am siding with Elon in this instance for now because it's very clear that they wanted out. And even though it's clear that Elon observed it was probably necessary to become a B Corp, he still was ousted. And in the case that it became a B Corp, he still does rightfully own those shares of equity. So
Mhm.
I guess for now, I'm Team Elon, but more than anything, I'm Team Drama, man. This is great content. And we're going to continue to follow this as we go through this court case because I'm sure this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Dude, I saw a hilarious tweet earlier this week, which said that my thesis for Anthropic winning the AI race is simply because they have zero drama.
No,
All
seriously.
six, all six co-founders are still there. No one's left. They've had the lowest employee attrition of any of the major AI labs. They've just kind of got their crap together. And OpenAI is the complete opposite. It's an absolute wrecking ball, as we're going to find out on other things later this episode. The final thing I'll make on this point is the OpenAI and Microsoft partnership. Josh, if Elon ends up if Elon ends up getting $134 billion, that dissolves the Microsoft OpenAI relationship completely because that is the equivalent of Microsoft's stake in OpenAI as well. So Elon's forcing hand basically gets ahead of him. Like Satya doesn't have the power that he originally thought he had.
And now poor Microsoft is just caught up into this, even though they had nothing to do with the inception of the company and they weren't involved until
Yes.
much later. And I think
Mhm.
the reason why this matters beyond the drama even is because a lot of people believe that if Elon wins, I mean, it could fundamentally challenge how AI companies are valued. And some people are kind of whispering about whether this trial could be a catalyst that could impact the actual AI bubble that we've been building. If you can remove almost like $150 billion out of that and move it into another entity, that's a huge swing that is like I'm not sure if the market's going to be able to handle that because OpenAI has so many obligations to make money and pay people back. And I guess on that note, maybe we can get into one of the new things that they rolled out in order to generate some revenue this week, which is their new ad model. And Ijaz, if you remember, just last year, I guess 2 years technically now because we're in 2026, but in 2024, Sam Altman was on stage and he said, ads are kind of the last resort. We don't really like the ad model. We don't believe in it. We don't need it. Flash forward to today, there are ads rolling out in OpenAI. So we'll start by reading what they announced, which says, in the coming weeks, we plan to start testing ads in ChatGPT free and go tiers. We're sharing our principles early on how we'll approach ads guided by putting users in trust transparency first as we work to make AI accessible to everyone. So they have like these 4 principles that they outlined. What matters most, responses in ChatGPT will not be influenced by ads. Ads are always separated and clearly labeled. Your conversations are private from advertisers. Pro plus business and enterprise tiers will not have ads. Aegis, what do you think
Mhm.
about this?
Okay, I have many thoughts. Okay, so let me give you a kind of lay of the land. OpenAI today has roughly 800 million weekly active
Mhm.
users. Josh, guess what percentage of those users pay for their
I
subscription?
know this because we mentioned this in a previous episode. It is close to single
Mhm.
digit percent. It's very low, surprisingly low.
It is It is 5%.
Yeah, that's not
So
a
the
lot.
lesson that we've learned from this is you could have subscriptions, but it's not enough to keep you afloat. OpenAI is projected to blow $20 billion this year alone.
Jeez.
You need something else to pay for it. So you need to somehow monetize the free users. And the classic model that everyone's used for decades now is ads. So they're turning it on for 2 specific tiers: the free users who are paying nothing to get access to
Mhm.
ChatGPT, and this new tier which launched at the same time that they announced ads, Josh, called Open ChatGPT Go, where it's a subscription where you pay $8 a month and you get access to not the best ChatGPT
Mhm.
models, but just below the best. So let's look at some of the napkin math here. There's roughly 600 million non-paying weekly users or monthly users for ChatGPT.
Right.
If each of them were to pay $2 in ad revenue for the year of 2026, OpenAI stands to make around 1.3 to 1.7 billion dollars, which sounds like it's a lot, but again, their spending budget is $20 billion, so
That's not going to cut it.
it doesn't really move the needle that much. And they're projecting by 2030 to have made $15 per free user, which then pushes them up into the realm of $36 billion. But you can imagine that their spending budget by then, Josh, is going to be multiples of what they're
Outrageous.
spending this year. So to kind of put into context, it's not looking great. But my argument against that is I think AI is going to be the ultimate form of selling ads in the future. Everyone is going to surface their intents, be it like, I want to buy something, I want to explore something through some kind of AI chatbot. And if OpenAI or ChatGPT rather becomes the face or the doormat of the internet,
Mhm.
then they can charge whatever they want per user. And to kind of give listeners a context of like how much money you can actually make, let's look at Meta, right? In this tweet that I have up here, in 2025, Meta made $58 per user just purely from ads. And if you want to look at like the behemoth that is Google, they made $237 billion last year from ad revenue. That makes up 77% of their entire profit. So there's a lot of money
Mhm.
to make from ads, but OpenAI needs to figure out a way to go from their $2 projection to something where Meta's hitting like $60 or even Google at around $80 per user.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting testament to, I guess, the human nature of how we think about sponsoring and advertising. I was very
Yes.
optimistic in the early days that advertising, the traditional ad model, the freemium model, was going to go away in the advent of AI.
Mhm.
And that was just some hopeful optimism. Didn't really have any reasoning why, but I think it's become clear that that will not be the case. And this push to monetize free users will continue to be this durable thing that continues into this next iteration of technology,
Yes.
mostly based on the fact that people would much prefer to pay with their attention than their dollars.
Mhm.
And particularly when it's good information. Now, the question that I have as it relates to this story in particular is, how much data are they going to be collecting and using in order to make these ads actually useful?
Right.
Because one of the core principles that they shared is that your data is private, your data is being held, it's not influencing the ads that you see. But the reality is that ads can be a good thing if they are hyper personalized. So where are they going to draw that line? Where are they going to take that line in the sand in order to give people higher value?
We actually have some information on that exact question that I'm showing on the screen here. They state in their official post, ads do not change ChatGPT answers. So we know that the answer that you're going to get isn't going to be influenced in any way specifically by an advert. And then it goes on to say your chats with ChatGPT are not shared with advertisers. Ads will be clearly labeled. And chats that include sensitive topics such as health, mental health, or politics are not eligible for ads. So they're taking a kind of hybrid approach here where
Mhm.
they're not explicitly sharing all the data or rather prompts that you're sharing within your conversations, but it's taking kind of themes from your conversations and sharing them with advertisers saying, hey, these are the general vibes that our users are speaking about ChatGPT with. Maybe your product could be a well suited fit for this. Another interesting point to make here is, well, what do the ads actually look like? Is it going to be something subtle where it says,
This
hey,
was shocking to
Josh,
me.
right? Well, I actually like this.
I
Shocking in a
like
good
it,
way.
but no, well, shocking in not really the most optimal way. When you look at the amount of screen real estate this takes up for people who are
It's
listening,
huge.
about a third of the screen is an ad. That's a
Yes.
large percentage of screen real estate for a single advertising slot to go, which is probably going to be worth a pretty hefty premium and a
Yep.
very strong inconvenience to people who don't want to pay for ChatGPT. So this, in a way, does degrade the experience, but should also make them a good bit of money. Because man, if you're getting 25 to 30% of the screen for an impression, that's like a pretty, you're gonna see it. Like there's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
way your ad blockers, like your eyes are gonna glaze over it and not notice because it is such a profound placement on the actual display.
Well, it's also not your average impression, right? Because
Mhm.
this is a kind of like
Hyper
boosted
personalized,
impression where
big
like
time.
the conversion rate is or probability of it converting into someone purchasing your product or service is probably way, way higher. Now to give OpenAI credit, I like that they're excluding things like health, politics, and also people that are under the age of 18 because AI is very, very persuasive, both in a good way, but in a really, really bad way.
Mm.
The other kind of lens that I apply to this is the competitors are going to eat this up, Josh, because listen, Google is getting plenty of cash flow from all their other businesses. So they do not need to turn on ads. Today, if you
Mhm.
are a freemium user of OpenAI and you get tired of this real estate that you just referenced, the sponsored ads, you don't want to see that crap. You can just go and use Gemini and there's no ads at all. And let me tell you, Google will be willing to subsidize no ads for as long as it takes to kill OpenAI. Anthropic, on the other hand, isn't a gigantic monopoly, but they're already making so much money from the people that want their Claude Code product. They've already produced something so valuable, Josh, from their subscription that they're making tons of money. They're projected to
Mhm.
make $70 billion by 2028. So they don't need to pull off this stunt for ads. So OpenAI really seems like they've got their back against the wall. And there's no other way for me to describe it, to be honest.
Yeah, they're a small fish in a very, very big pond. I mean, they're competing with companies like Google that have an infinite balance sheet relative to theirs, and they have the
Yeah.
ability to subsidize and absorb any additional cost required to win additional market share. And that's what
Mhm.
we're seeing as we look at these charts of weekly active users decline for ChatGPT and increase for all the others across the board, while
Mhm.
Anthropic sits cozy and soundly with their incredible coding model and their business to business service. Now,
Yep.
I think it's time to get back into the drama news. This is
Oh,
the
God.
gossip part of the show
I,
because we have
I,
some more.
Yeah, dude, I wish Sam versus Elon was the only cat fight going on. But do you remember that angel from OpenAI that couldn't do no wrong and actually called Sam out for being moralistically unethical? Mira Murati, who left
Mhm.
and started her own company, her own AI lab called Thinking Labs. They just
Thinking
lost,
machines.
Thinking Machines, rather. They just lost uh, total 50% of their founders or their founding team this week. They lost their CTO, Barrett Zoff, due to, as this tweet says, unethical conduct, according to two sources familiar with the matter. Those two things that were unethical was a in-work relationship, which he didn't disclose. And also, apparently, he was leaking information to competitors. Um,
Yikes.
Josh, do you want to guess which competitor, if it was true,
Huh.
who he might
Well,
have
if
been
I had
leaking
to
that
take a
to?
guess, considering where they all came from, I'm going to guess they were returning back to OpenAI, which
Oh,
seems very
dude.
clear to me.
Absolutely. Look at this tweet from Fiji Simo, the CEO of OpenAI Applications, who at the same time Mira Murati announced that these guys were leaving, she announced, welcome Barrett Zoff, Luke Metz, and Sam Scho. So basically, the three exact people that left Thinking Machines this week joined OpenAI. So I have a feeling that they were already getting tired of their work. They didn't really feel focused under Mira Murati's leadership and decided that the best place to go back was OpenAI, and Fiji welcomed them back with open arms.
Hey, I got a question for you, actually. What does
Go,
thinking machines do?
dude, I have no idea. 2
I'm not
billion
sure
seed
anybody has an
raise.
answer.
$2 billion seed raise.
I'm not sure anybody has an answer. This company, as far as I'm concerned, they have shipped one like small product that I don't think it was just kind of a research product, wasn't very impressive, and
Yeah.
nothing else. But they've raised $2 billion in their seed. They're looking to raise even more money, and there is clearly a lot of drama going on in house. There's this funny post, EJS. I actually dropped it in our agenda. If you don't mind opening it, it's titled "Gym,"
Yes.
and there's a post that someone saw looking into the offices, and it has like these weights that are custom branded with thinking machines, just as a testament to how kind of outrageous the spending is. Yeah, this photo, it's so funny. So
Dude,
if you
this
scroll down
is
a little bit, you
hilarious.
could see the plates on the gym are thinking machines plates. And ironically, there's no 45s in this picture because I mean maybe AI researchers
They don't
aren't really
bench.
pressing it like they need to be. Who knows? But I think it's a it's a funny testament to the fact that there are bubbly things happening, and one of which seems like it's thinking machines. They've raised a ton of money. They haven't really come up with a product. There's clearly a lot of drama where half of the co-founders now have returned back to where they left from. So clearly they're not liking it. And it seems like there's this lack of direction. And you can give them the benefit and the doubt in the case that they are a research lab and they're hoping to discover some novel algorithmic improvement. But we've discussed this in previous episodes where an algorithmic improvement is very difficult to capture value from because it very
Yes.
quickly becomes commoditized and democratized throughout the stack. So even in the best case scenario, it seems difficult to see thinking machines anywhere else besides either being acquired or just kind of fizzling out. And I mean, at this point, it wouldn't even surprise me to see OpenAI acquire them again. The Mira will come back to OpenAI. They'll get the remaining three co-founders and they'll just continue to move on as they were previously. But that is to be determined. In other AI news, perhaps we'll go off the drama and get back to the hard tech, the people who are actually building stuff,
Please.
not talking about stuff. And that is XAI, who has just released the first, or has just made it the first gigawatt scale coherent training
Mhm.
cluster in the world. And
Mhm.
they have not been around. They've been around the least amount of time out of any other
2
company in
years.
the world. So it's pretty ironic the fact that the youngest company is now the first to reach this critical scale of 1 gigawatt worth of energy.
Yeah, this is a big deal. So, Colossus 2 and Colossus 1 are
Hmm.
XAI's specific data centers that they use to gather all their GPUs and train their AI models and inference their AI models. And the unique part around Colossus specifically is Elon is an infrastructure scaling genius.
Yep.
When he started
Nobody better.
Colossus 1, he scaled it to 400 megawatts of compute capacity in 122 days. Do you know how long it should have taken him, technically?
I mean, this is like a years long project.
Dude, 4 years. A
Hmm.
year to just set up the infrastructure, but 4 years to get it live. He did all of that in 122 days. Jensen Huang called him something like short of an absolute genius that no
That's
one
4
can
months.
compete with.
That's
It is
1/10
it,
the time.
it 4 months, right?
Yeah.
And so he did that kind of midway last year, and he thought, you know what? I'm going to put my foot on the gas even more. And he
Let's do
started
it
with
again.
Colossus 2. And by the start of this year, or rather not by the start of this year, but January 17th specifically, he got 1 gigawatt of compute total live across Colossus 1 and Colossus 2. He is
Yeah, that's
officially the
incredible.
quickest AI startup to get to 1 gigawatts worth of compute, beating OpenAI, who started this stuff years ago. This is a 2-year startup.
Oh
So
my god. We gotta show the
to give you
chart,
an
please. Go to the chart at the bottom of
yeah,
this.
please, 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 please. Let me go to this chart. Where is the
Oh,
chart?
it was at the bottom of the post.
Oh, yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. Sorry, right. Look at this scale. It is
Yeah.
just absolutely insane. To kind of like put this into context for people, we're talking about 555,000 GPUs. That's 500,000 GPUs worth $18 billion. He deployed it that quickly. And if you want to understand why he got the edge over every other lab that's been working on this for multiple years, and somehow Elon's just kind of like swept the rug with them, he thought outside of the box. He played in the gray area. And what I mean by that is, of course, he flew in gas turbines, Josh. He flew in gas turbines to power his data centers. If
Mhm.
he couldn't get access to electrical grids, he would set it up himself. He would literally thread the wires himself. And if he couldn't get any energy from the national electric grid or the state electric grid, he would fly in Tesla megapacks to power this. He's thinking way outside the box where other AI labs are just kind of waiting for regulatory burdens to be overcome, which is going to take years, to be honest.
Yeah, and so much so that these 2 data centers, Colossus 1 and 2, actually sit in different states, but right
Yeah.
on the state line. So they could lobby in 2 states at once. They have access to double the amount of senators to help get the legislation passed that they need in order to build these things. They have really like, if you think about how to build a data center from first principles, you wanna optimize all of these traits that they have actually been doing. And they have that unique advantage that you mentioned, where they have partnerships with companies like Tesla to give them access to these mega packs. And a lot of people don't realize when you do these training runs, there's a couple 100,000 GPUs that spin up very quickly and then power down. And there's a huge variance in energy that comes through the grid in order to make this work. And when there's a physical combustion motor that's actually spinning, it's very difficult to speed it up and slow it down that fast. So you need something quicker. You need things like megapack batteries. And the only company that makes batteries this size at this scale with this type of software stack ready to go is Tesla, is the megapack. And they have this competitive advantage. And in a world in which the winner is the person who can deploy resources the fastest and most efficiently, it very clearly seems that XAI is going to continue to take this lead as they move forward just because of the sheer rate of improvement. And if you look at the chart, I mean, it's a vertical line to get to
Yeah.
Colossus 2. And the next person who's coming after this is OpenAI, but that chart looks like it's going to beat them sometime in 2027. So, I mean, granted, there will be variance here, but it seems like XAI finally has taken the lead, and I don't see any world in which they don't continue to dominate this lead.
Yeah, I agree with you. Elon's taking a very large gamble here, which is the more compute I have, the better AI model I can build. And that was
Mhm.
in contention last year, but Google proved it after they spun up a bunch of TPUs that they produced a leading model. And I have a feeling that Grok 5, whenever that releases in this quarter or first half of the year, is going to be an absolute beast.
Oh, I can't
Um,
wait.
I can't wait. To put it into context, by the way, because we throw around like a lot of these numbers, like 1 gigawatt. What the hell does that mean? That is the total power that is needed to power San Francisco City, but not just during normal hours. I'm talking about peak hours. If you turn on all the lights, use up all the energy, the most energy, That's how much power is coursing through Colossus 2 right now. And I've got news for you guys. He's set up Colossus 3 already, and he
It's
has
coming.
raised another $20 billion, $5 billion oversubscribed to buy even more GPUs. And he is the largest purchaser of NVIDIA's Blackwells and their latest Vera Rubins as well. So again,
My
it's a big
God.
gamble. If it pays
Yeah.
off, Grok's gonna be the best, dude.
Man, when these Vera Rubin chips come online and they have clusters this size at this scale, there's there's an impossibility we don't reach AGI at that point. There is so much
Yes.
intelligence, so much energy and compute power solving problems, and this is happening quickly. I mean, this is by next year. We're done. So things are
Crazy.
moving quickly, but maybe on that note, on particularly the
Josh,
Tesla one, we have
it's not the
updates.
well, come on. Like, we're talking about XAI. This is one company, one of six that Elon manages.
Mhm.
And you're telling me that he's had a banger week for Tesla as well?
Absolutely incredible. So there's a funny thing. I'm in LA right now, and I've been taking Waymos around all week. And this obviously is Tesla's largest competitor, and they're fantastic. They work very well, but they work in this geofenced area where I wanted to go to Santa Monica Pier, and I
Mm.
actually couldn't get there, even though it was only 4 miles away, because it wasn't in the geofenced area. I wasn't able to get there. FSD is solving this problem. FSD is going to be fully autonomous everywhere. And in fact, just this week, they announced that they are removing the ability to purchase a license February 14th on Valentine's Day, which is kind of sad because um, that's a heartbreak thing. And on Valentine's Day of all days is not a cool thing, but it signals a few things to me. One is since the beginning of time, it was made very clear that the price of full self driving would only go in one direction, and that's up. Because the value of having a license to basically grant you unlimited full self driving miles for the remaining value of the car is a very high premium. And as they get closer and closer, that premium will get higher. Now we've gotten so close to the finish line that they've removed it entirely, and that license no longer exists. So if you want to buy unlimited, lifetime, full self-driving chauffeur miles, you have about a month to do it. And if you don't do it in that time, that's it. You're done for.
Wait,
This
question for
comes
you.
on the
Question for
yeah.
you. So let's say you buy a new Tesla after this deadline, Josh.
Mhm.
Can you move your lifetime FSD subscription to your new car?
There is a month grace period after the window until sometime in mid-March, where if you
Oh.
are a current owner, you can transfer the license to the new vehicle. But after that, I suspect it's done and it's
But
not
dude,
coming back.
didn't people pay like $8,000 to get
Yes,
FSD for
I
life?
own the license, so it's disappointing, but
Damn.
it's been expected for a very long time, and the
Okay.
cars last forever. But now the car becomes much more valuable because it does have lifetime free full self driving miles, and that amount of inference power is really impressive on the back of this post that we're sharing right now, which is the hardware plan as they move forward and as they're actually powering these systems. So AI4 is currently what's on the cars right now. That's what is
Mm.
driving full self driving. That is what is going to get to full level 5 autonomy where the cars will drive themselves. But AI5 is coming next. And AI5 is a new chip design that they've been working really hard on basically every week for the last 3 months. And AI5 is built entirely for full self driving in a way that AI4 was not. So traditionally with GPUs, the way they're built is for large, I think it's floating point matrix math, some like very elaborate data set. And it's good for general purpose. But basically what Tesla and the AI team are doing is designing, you could think of it like a TPU, but for full self-driving vehicles and for autonomy
Mm.
on machines. So that includes things like Optimus and things like any of the Tesla vehicles. And I'm sure it will find its way into data centers. In fact, I was listening to an episode with one of the XAI employees who I guess is ex XAI now because he's no longer with the company after that podcast. But he was mentioning how the plan is actually to take these AI5 chips and all of the chips moving forward and actually place them into data centers because they're going to be so effective, so efficient relative to others that Tesla will now soon become not only a large chip manufacturer, but will do the Google thing and will vertically integrate the chips into its own technology stack as it trains these models and starts to build its quest for AGI.
He's already working on the future iterations of this chip as well.
Mhm.
Um, AI 6, AI 7, and then Dojo 3. He's resuming that project as well. He mentioned that he's going to be doing these iterations in 9-month cycles. So, what
Yeah, it's
has typically
insane.
taken 2 years, he's accelerating chip design to a new one every 9 months, which is just an insane cadence and kind of reminds me of what Jensen is doing at NVIDIA, which brings me to because Jensen's like doing a new GPU model every year now. That's what he's targeting. Which
Mhm.
brings you to my point. We had a conversation, you and I, Josh, months ago last year, where I said that I think Elon might be going down the path where he's not exactly trying to compete with NVIDIA, but he wants to become independent from them eventually. I'm not saying this is a direct hit towards it. I think your comparison to the AI models, the AI 5 chips, rather, being kind of better compared to Google's TPUs is accurate. But if he's not just going to put these in cars, but he's going to put these in humanoid robots and whatever robots Tesla builds in the future, maybe even his spaceships, if they do a cross collaboration, we already know that there's a lot of synergies between SpaceX and Tesla. This ends up becoming one of the most valuable GPU providers there could be. And I wonder if Tesla starts to get valued similarly to an NVIDIA-esque for maybe custom specialized chips for robots in the future.
Yeah, their plan is to develop a terafab factory. So their plan is to actually make these chips in-house to become someone like NVIDIA, but do so in a way that's vertically integrated. And you could see in that post, he's kind of sharing what each one of those chips are going to be used for. And we could almost reverse engineer this to create a timeline of when we'll get to AI 7, which he says will be the space-based AI compute. And if you assume about 9 months per iteration, that takes us to 27 months, so 2 years and change after AI 5 releases. So maybe AI 5 comes out sometime later this year. After that, we have about 2 years. So you're looking at like 2028, 2029, end of the decade for space-based AI compute to become really a superpower. And you have to assume that by that time, starships will be working very, very well. They'll get the cost per kilogram down. And that's probably when we'll start to see this new AI in space-based narrative actually literally taking off and getting into outer space. So I found that interesting too. So now we kind of have this loose estimate for timelines as well. And one final bonus on the full self-driving part of this show is the real live implementation of this right now, where we're seeing this post. This person drove 13,000 miles fully autonomously from the West Coast to the East Coast and then partially back. This was all done using a production Tesla. There was no early access information, and it was actually verified through the software that's on the car that 100% of these 13,000 miles were driven autonomously. That includes parking, that includes charging, that includes driving, detours, anything that needed to happen. It was done 100% autonomously. And I think that's why you're seeing this premium for these licenses. And the second they go away, you're on a monthly plan, and that monthly plan is going to change price. Right now it's $100 a month, but I suspect it will continue to go up as the cost per mile goes down. And that's basically it for the autopilot section. I mean, it's exciting. It's happening quickly. It's out there in production. You could go sit in them today, and it really does work. You have your own chauffeur.
To be honest, the most shocking thing from this news update, Josh, is that you spent the week driving around in Waymos. The
You know what?
betrayal is too much.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer, man. I got to know what's going on over there.
True. Well,
And
there's
I will say, it's very
2,500
impressive.
of them out there right now, right?
Oh, and it
Versus
looks like it.
Tesla's
It's
like
unbelievable.
100.
Just a sidebar on LA. There are robots everywhere. There's robots rolling down the street delivering food. There's Waymos that are driving in the streets. It feels like a futuristic place relative to New York City.
Did you make it out to the Tesla dyno this time?
Yes. And enjoyed every moment of it.
How's the food?
In fact, I was there the week that it opened up because I was such a fanboy. It's a cool experience. I would recommend anyone who is in LA
the food
go
that
check it out
good?
because it's really fun. It is very good. It's all locally sourced. It's high quality ingredients. It tastes great. It's a really fun and novel experience. So it's worth making a pit stop if anyone's around.
Okay, well, if you guys are based in the West Coast or better yet in LA, definitely go check out the dyno or get a ride in a Waymo. Let us know. Is it safe? Do you get into a car crash? I would personally love to know.
And share some pics. It's fun. You get an opportunity to actually sit in the future and live that before a lot of people do. So would highly advise. Now, final topic of the week here is a new partnership between OpenAI and Cerebrus. I know, Ijaz, you're a Cerebrus fan. You're a Cerebrus guy. What's going on over here?
I'm more kind of concerned that OpenAI is spending money again, despite them burning so much money.
How much money are we talking?
$10 billion over the next
just
3
10
years. Just $10 billion. By the way, they don't have that $10 billion. Lord knows
they don't have any dollars. They haven't made a profit yet.
They haven't made any profit, but with ads, of course. But yes, this is OpenAI's latest and greatest partnership, or rather investment, which is to the tune of $10 billion in this company called Cerebrus. Now, when I read this headline, Josh, I had a flashback because I had seen the name Cerebrus before. And I remember I'd seen their name in the context of them moaning about another investment, which was NVIDIA's $20 billion investment in a company called Grok, which makes custom, let's call them custom GPUs, but they're not exactly
Grok
GPUs.
with a Q.
Grok with a Q.
This is that $30 billion acquisition that just happened.
$20 billion acquisition.
$20 billion acquisition.
Licensing acquisition, exactly. And NVIDIA made this acquisition so that they would get access to Grok with the Qs, um, LSUs, they're language specific units or whatever the hell it stands for. And basically, it allows them to process inference at a much cheaper rate. And the reason why that's interesting is okay, training the model is all well and done, and you need GPUs to do that. But afterwards, you have a ton of people like Josh and I just sending prompts every single hour. And it requires a different type of chip that you can make more performant, save you more money, and also make you more money, right? If you can lower the cost of inference, you end up making money on the back end, right? That's what we all
Mhm.
want. And so OpenAI thought, I don't have a Grok. What's the next best company to invest in? And that was Cerebrus. Cerebrus, at the time of the NVIDIA acquisition, complained, saying, Grok's not good enough. Our chips are better. Basically, because they're kind of salty that they didn't get the investment. Now they're getting it from OpenAI, Josh. And so, why would OpenAI do it at this time? Well, they received a big bit of criticism for one of their products, Josh, and that is their coding model called
Yeah.
Codex. They were told that it was too slow, and Claude Code not only was smarter, but a lot quicker. Well, Josh, a bit of news dropped in the last week, which actually you and I didn't even catch. We caught it at the last minute. Um, OpenAI dropped Codex Max High. God knows why they called it that, but it's their latest coding model, which is a lot smarter than it was. It's almost at parity with Claude Code, but not quite as good. But most importantly, it's quicker. And the rumors state that the reason why it's 15 times quicker is because they're using Cerebrus chips. So they have
Mm.
this specific custom chip. It's huge. I've seen a picture of this thing. It's the size of a dinner plate. It looks absolutely ridiculous, but it's more performant and will allow OpenAI to charge more on the back end whilst also delivering enough compute for anyone and everyone that wants to use it for coding.
Yeah, it's a 10 times faster than GPU-based inference performance boost. So this is going to be a huge increase in performance. Now they have the performance. Do they have the actual intelligence? That's the next question that remains to be seen.
Mhm.
So is it going to be valuable if it's faster, even though the tokens that it's generating are a bit inferior to Anthropic? I don't know. But again, this is kind of a testament to the strategy of OpenAI, which is fighting basically every war on all fronts. They're trying to win consumer. They're trying to win
Yeah.
institutional and business. They're trying to compete on coding while also doing image generation, while also doing video generation. So they're trying to be the best across the board. And it seems like as a result, they're becoming kind of not the best at anything.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure where that strategy leads, but it appears as if they're going to continue doing that based on their ad strategy and now this acquisition of Cerebrus. So time will tell how this actually pans
Do you
out,
wanna
if it
hit
is
do you wanna hear
worthwhile.
my tinfoil hat
Yeah, what do you
conspiracy,
got?
Josh? I also read earlier this week, Josh, what is the Neuralink competitor that Sam started? Is it Merge Labs or something like that? It's Merge, right?
Huh. I think that's probably right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I know he has a competitor.
Guess which AI lab made a massive investment in Merge Labs this week as well?
Who?
OpenAI.
No.
So so
So he's
I
just buying his own bags
it's
across
kind
the
of
board.
annoying. It's annoying, right? Because he
Is he
also secretly
using
has equity
invest
in this thing.
is he using investor
Yes.
money as exit liquidity? That's
Yes,
kind
that's
of
exactly what he's doing. Yeah, it's sus,
on
right?
the back of a $135 billion lawsuit.
Yes.
There's I think this is probably going to be a big trend for the year is
Yeah.
just evaluating the ethics and strategy of OpenAI as they have gone from nonprofit to for profit and now continue to acquire the same companies that are on the CEO's balance sheet.
Yes.
It's interesting. There's a lot of good lore here that we still have to unpack. But I think that's enough unpacking for today. We covered quite a bit.
Yes.
That's going to be the end of the episode. We have another roundup coming later this week. There's so much stuff to talk about. But yeah, that was another.
Well, I was going to say, you might have noticed if you're listening to this that we didn't mention two of the hottest topics this week: Anthropic releasing Claude Cowork, and Google taking over the entire AI world with four product releases, including personal intelligence. We
Mhm.
actually made dedicated episodes to both of those. And if you don't know what we're talking
Yes.
about, you missed it. And you should definitely go and watch those. In fact, Josh wrote a banger of a newsletter essay in our newsletter. So you should sign up for that as well.
Please do.
Turn on notifications wherever you listen or watch these things. I know some of you can't bear to look at our faces, so you just listen to our voices. That's totally fine. Turn on notifications, subscribe. It helps us out so much. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode. We're
And
filming
some
a pretty
alpha. Can we
interesting
leak a little
one.
bit of alpha here?
Yes, please.
For
Please.
anyone who subscribes to the newsletter, the piece that's coming out this week, EJS, I believe, is going to be on XAI and about why XAI is undervalued, how valuable it can get, kind of a continuation of the conversation we had today. So if that seems interesting, that's going to drop on Wednesday of this week. So subscribe in order to get access to that and see a little bit more detail as to why we suspect XAI is going to have the success that we believe it will be, which will be very, very high. But yeah, that concludes the episode. Thank you all so much for watching. We appreciate it. Appreciate you sharing with your friends, doing all the good things. And we will see you guys in the next one.
See ya.